सर्वेभ्यः। व्योम-संस्कृत-पाठशालायाः लघुसिद्धान्तकौमुदी द्वितीयभागे पुनरावर्तनवर्गे सर्वेषां स्वागतम्। येनाक्षरसमाम्नायमधिगम्य महेश्वरात् कृत्स्नं व्याकरणं प्रोक्तं तस्मै पाणिनये नमः। वाक्यकारं वररुचिं भाष्यकारं पतञ्जलिं पाणिनिं सूत्रकारं च प्रणतोऽस्मि मुनित्रयं नत्वा सरस्वतीं देवीं शुद्धां गुण्यां करोम्यहं पाणिनीयप्रवेशाय लघुसिद्धान्तकौमुदीम्। अस्माभिः लघुसिद्धान्तकौमुद्यां हलन्त पुल्लिङ्गप्रकरणे हकारान्तेभ्यः आरभ्य थकारान्त शब्दपर्यन्तम् अधीतम्। सप्ताहद्वये तत्र परीक्षा भविष्यति, अतः अद्य अस्मिन् पुनरावर्तनवर्गे तत्र केऽपि सन्देहाः सन्ति चेत् प्रष्टुमर्हन्ति। तथैव सकृत् सर्वेषां शब्दानाम् एकं विहङ्गमविलोकनं कर्तुं प्रयत्नं कुर्मः। आदौ अष्टाध्याय्याः सप्तमाध्यायस्य द्वितीयः पादः। ये वक्तुमिच्छन्ति हस्तं नयन्तु। कण्ठस्थीकृतं चेत् सम्यक्, नो चेत् पठितुमपि शक्यते। सर्वैः 20 सूत्राणि वक्तव्यानि। Oh, looks like a different tool today. Nalini Srinivasa.
स्क्रीन् दृश्यते वा?
नलिनी श्रीनिवास
शृणोति वा भगिनी?
श्रूयते, वदतु।
तत्र स्क्रीन्
अपेक्ष्यते वा?
कण्ठस्थीकृतं, परन्तु तत्र प्रथमं
क्षणम्
पदेषु अतोल्रान्तस्य वदव्रजहलन्तस्याचः नेति म्यन्तक्षणश्वसजागृनिष्वेदिताम् ऊर्णोतेर्विभाषा अतो हलादेर्लघोः नेड्वशीकृति पितुत्र तथसि सुसरकसेषु च एका च उपदेशेनुदात्ता श्रियुकः इति सनिग्रहगुहोश्च कृसृभृभृस्तुदृसृश्रुवो लिटि श्वीदितो निष्ठायां यस्य विभाषा आदितश्च विभाषा भावादिकर्मणोः क्षुब्धस्वान्तध्वान्तलग्नं लिष्टविरुद्धफाण्टबाढानि मन्थमनस्तमसक्ता विस्पष्टस्वरानायासभृशेषु दृश्यसी वैयात्ये दृढस्थूलबलयोः प्रभौ परिवृढः कृच्छ्रगहनयोः कषः।
अलं भगिनी, धन्यवादः। तत्र प्रभौ परिवृढः इति न भवति, यतोहि तत्र अनचि एव द्वित्वम्, अनचि च इति सूत्रं पठितं किल। तत्र वकारोत्तरम् अच् अस्ति ऋकारः, अतः द्वित्वं न भवति, परिवृढः इत्येव। मृत्युञ्जय जोशी।
मैम 1 मिनट। Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes.
From where to start?
21. Prabhau parivridha.
Okay. Prabhau parivridha कृच्छ्रगहनयोः कषः घुषिरविशब्दने अभेदनिवृत्तः अभेश्चावदूर्ये नेरध्ययने वृत्तं वादान्तशान्तपूर्णदस्तस्पष्टच्छन्नज्ञप्ताः ऋष्यमत्वरसङ्घुषास्वनां हृषेर्लोमसु अपचितश्च हृह्वरेश्छन्दसि अपरिहृताश्च सोमे परितः ग्रसितस्कभितस्तभितोत्तभितच्चत्तविकस्ताभिशस्त्रशंस्त्रशास्त्र तरुत्रतरुत्रवरुत्रवरुत्रवरुत्री रुज्ज्वलितिक्षरितिक्षमिति वमित्यमितीति च आर्धधातुकस्येड्वलादेः स्नुक्रमोरनात्मनेपदनिमित्ते द्रहोल्लिटि दीर्घः वृतो वा यनि इति च परस्मैपदेषु इत्थनि वा लिङ्सिचोरात्मनेपदेषु।
सम्यक् पठितम्, उत्तमम्।
थैंक यू।
दीपा रंगराज।
राम राम। लिंसिचोरात्मनेपदेषु कृतश्च संयोगादेः स्वरति सूति सूयति भूम्यो वितो वा प्रधादिभ्यश्च निरः कुहः इन्निष्ठायां तीर्षसः लुभरुषर्षः सनीवन्तर्धभ्रश्च दम्भुश्रीस्त्रियूर्णभरह्यपि सनां त्रिषह्त्वानिष्ठयोः पूनश्च वसति क्षुधोरित् अञ्चे पूजायां लुभो विमोहने जृभ्रश्चोक्त्वि उदितो वा सेसिचि कृतच्छ्रितच्छ्रितधृतः गमेरट् परस्मैपदेषु न वृद्भ्यश्चतुर्भ्यः तासि च क्लिपः अचस्तास्वत्थल्यनिटो नित्यम् उपदेशे त्वतः।
सम्यक्, धन्यवादः। संदीप शाह महोदय। संदीप शाह महोदय।
श्रूयते वा?
श्रूयते। फ्रॉम 61।
अचस्तास्वत् थल्यनिटो नित्यम् उपदेशे त्वतः ऋतो भारद्वाजस्य बभूथात् तन्थ जगृम्ब ववर्धेति निगमे विभाषा सृजि दृशोः इडत्यर्ति व्ययतीनां वस्वे का जाद्वसां विभाषा गमहन् विद विशां सनीसस निवासं रुद्धनोस्ये अंचेः सिचि स्तुसुद्युभ्यः परस्मैपदेषु यम यम नमातां सक् च स्मीपु ज वशो वशां सनि किरश्च पंचभ्यः रुदादित्य सार्वधातुके इशस्ये ईडजनोर्द्वे च लिडः सलोपोनन्तस्य सलोपः अनन्तस्य अतो येयः आतोडित आनेमुख इदासः।
धन्यवादः।
राम
राम राम। पार्वती नटराज।
हरि ओम भगिनी। आतोंगितः आनेमुक ईदासः अष्टन आविभक्तौ रायो हलि युष्मदस्मदोरनादेशे द्वितीयायां च प्रथमायाश्च द्विवचने भाषायां योचि शेषे लोपः मपर्यन्तस्य युवावौ द्विवचने यूयवयौ जसि त्वाहौ सौ तुभ्यमह्यौ ङयि तव ममौ ङसि त्वमावेकवचने प्रत्ययोत्तरपदयोश्च त्रिचतुरो स्त्रियां तिस्रु चतस्रु अचिरऋतः जराया जरसन्यतरस्याम्।
सम्यक्, धन्यवादः।
धन्यवादः।
सुमिता विद्याशंकर।
राम राम।
राम।
अचिर Jaraya Jarasanyatarasyam Tyadadi Namah Kimah Kah Kutiho Kwati Tadosa Savanantyayo Adasa Ausulopascha Idamomah Dascha Yasau Idoi Pumsi Anapyakah Halilopah Mrijir Vridhi Achoiniti Ata Upadhayaha Tadita Tadhiteshvachamadehe hiticha. And for the life of me, I'm not able to get that other one, which that 21 and the thing. I tried, I failed. Ashtadhyayi Sutra Pathe Saptamadhyayasya Dvitiya Pada.
Samyak. So,
Is that
yeah.
compulsory, Bhagini? That to do that?
It's not compulsory, it's actually helpful, that's all. Because you get, when you lose track in between, you can pick up from somewhere in between. Like, say, Sichi, Prabhau Parivridhaha is 21. Itsaniva is 41. Achastasvathalyanito Nityam is 61. Atongitaha is 81. Jaraya Jarasanyatarasyam is 101. So what happens is when we are revising, suddenly if I lose track, I can go back to the nearest, anchor point and start. And that is
I'll
the
make
reason.
one more attempt. Thank you. Sorry.
No, it's okay. So that's again, it is created purely for that purpose, right? And also, like when you get to a stage where you've memorized it, it is, if we have these anchors, it is much easy to get at the sutra number also, right? So it depends. So it's not a part of the sutra patha. It is created by tradition for that, to keep track of the number of sutras.
Next time I will.
Okay, so we will come back. Asmabhihi eshu trishu adhyayeshu. So hakarantebhyah arabhya thakaranta paryantam. So these are the shabdas which we have studied, right? So ha, there is no yakaranta. Vara, no lakaranta. Again, nya is not there. Ma, na. So in the anunasikas, only makaranta and nakaranta. Then jha, bha, gha, dha, dha. None of them are taken here. It's not, they are very rare. Since it's Laghu Kaumudi, he is trying to compile the most common types. Then we have Jabagadadash. So we have Ja and the Jakaranta, Dakaranta, and Thakaranta. Right? In Kha, Pha, Cha, Tha, Tha. That is where we have reached. We still have Chatatau, Kapai, Shashasar to go in the next chapter. But we have covered a major portion of the Halanta Pullinga Prakarana. Okay, there are a couple of questions. Babhutha tatantha jagrambha vavartheti nigame. So it says jagrambha or jagrambha. It is jagrambha. Babhutha tatantha jagrambha vavartheti.
It's in that Pushpa Dikshit Samskrita Bharati book, it is given as Jagribhma. The Bhakara comes first.
Okay. I will check that. Maybe it's a typo. As far as I have learned, it is Jagrambha. We'll take a look. It's a Vaidika Sutra. All those are Vaidika Rupas. So we can even look at the this, right?
Here it is Jagrambha.
Yeah, but if you go into the Sutrartha, we can easily. So Jagrabhma. So Kashika gives Jagrabhma. Jagrambha. Jagrahima. Jagrabhma. Babhutha atatantha jagram. Again, this seems to be an error. Kaumudi doesn't give it. But going by Jagrahima, there is no idagama, so it should be Jagrahma and then Jagrabhma. seems right. I will look at some more commentaries and so here also the Nyasa also gives Jagrabhma Vavarth. I will confirm this. So as far as I can see from here, it seems like Jagrabhma is the correct one. So again, must be. Can we listen to the? Sorry. The audio also says Jagrabhma. Okay, so please correct it. I will also correct it. Somehow the wrong patha has got into my mind also. I have memorized it as Jagrabha. Jagrabhma vavartheti nigame. Babhutha tatantha. Babhutha atatantha Jagrabhma vavartheti nigame is the right patha. Thank you, Bhagini. Thanks. Okay. So yeah, before I go into the revision, if you have any questions about any of these, please feel free to ask. We will discuss that and then try to quickly summarize this, right? Yeah. So there is one question on, can you explain the Vasusramsu Dhvam Swanaduham Daha, especially the Vyabhichara? You mean the Santa Vasvantasya, right? The Santa is a Visheshana only to Vasu and not to either Sramsu, Dhvamsu or Anaduh is what they say. So Santa Vasvantasya Sramsadeshcha Dahasyat. Right. So now why is it that the Santa, the Saha which is coming is taken as a Visheshana only to Vasu is the question. So the general rule is when we are giving specifically a Visheshana, that is, you're trying to differentiate. What is the purpose of a Visheshana? Visheshanam Bhedakam. So it differentiates between two things based on some attribute. Right. So for a Visheshana to work, there should be two things. Right? Then only it can differentiate this from that. Right. So when you are giving Santa as a Visheshana, it implies that there is one possibility which is Sakaranta, the other possibility which is not Sakaranta. It is only then that the Santa Visheshana will be able to differentiate the Sakaranta from the non-Sakaranta. If there is no non-Sakaranta, there is no point in saying Santa because it sees everything is Sakaranta, then the Visheshana cannot work. It cannot differentiate. So, Vyavartakam Visheshanam. So, it cannot separate something from other if it is only this pool. Right. So there are two possibilities. If everything is Sakaranta also, it cannot differentiate. If nothing is Sakaranta also, it cannot differentiate. It cannot pick. There is no Sakaranta. It will not be able to pick anything. That is what we call as the Asambhava. Whereas if everything is Sakaranta, we call it as Avyabhichara. That is, there is no other possibility. Everything is Sakaranta. So in Srams and Dhvams, it is always Sakaranta. Therefore, applying a Visheshana called Santa would be futile because it cannot differentiate the Sakaranta Srams from anything else. There is no anything else. It is always Sakaranta. Similarly, when we come to Anaduhu Shabda is never Sakaranta. Therefore, again, if you apply the Visheshana Santa, it will never be able to pick. Right. So, for all those, both Ramsu, Dhvamsu and Anaduha, it doesn't apply. Right. Avyabhicharat asambhavadva. Whereas in case of Vasvantas, so Vas is a pratyaya, so there is a possibility of it being Sakaranta and it being non-Sakaranta. Right? So we saw in Vidwan cases like we have Vidvasa, where the Sakara is deleted, there is no Sakaranta. So when there is both possibilities are present, being Sakaranta and non-Sakaranta, so the Visheshana will help to pick only the Sakaranta and leave out the rest. I think that is should answer. If you have any further questions on that, please let me know. Is there any specific rule that Samprasaranam always occurs in Bhasamya? Since both Vaha Ut and Swayuvama Ghona Matadhite? Not necessarily. It is not always in Bhasamya. Right? We have Samprasarana in Litlakara. We have Samprasarana in, say, for example, Swapadhatu becomes Supta. Right? Swapadhatu Kta Pratyaya. Right? So Kiti Pare, Ngiti Pare Bhavati. In Subantas, when we are operating, the Subanta, the Samprasarana rules we have seen apply in Bhasamya. But there are other nimittas for Samprasarana. Where is Anuswara Parasavarana compulsory and when is it optional? The rule is what we saw long ago. So, Apadante Nityam Padante Vikalpena. So, Anuswarasya Yayi Parasavaranaha and Vapadantasya. The Anuswara itself is compulsory because of either Monuswaraha or Nashchapadantasya Jhali. Both of them are compulsory sutras, right? So Monuswaraha is also Nitya and Nashchapadantasya Jhali is also Nitya. So Anuswara is Nitya. Parasavarana is compulsory if it is not Padanta and it is optional if it is Padanta. There are no further rules there. If you have any specific words in which there is a confusion, you can ask.
No, the Pantha, we don't do Anuswara Parasavana and then continue. So
you can do it there also. Very technically, if you do there, you can do the wherever there is Jhal and Apadanta, it is possible to do that. It becomes Pamtha and Pantha.
So that was the doubt, because in some places we show it and
yeah, even it's very obvious and it's always happening. Sometimes it gets left out, but technically it does happen there also. Khanj Sup. There are 3 forms which are shown in ashtadhyayi.org. You mean Khantsu, Khantsu, I assume. Yeah, the Chayodvitiya Shari should not apply there because Khansu, Nashcha, you are doing a Dhudagama and then doing a Chartva and then doing Chartva. So Chartva is Asiddha to Chayodvitiya Shari Paushkarasaderiti Vachyam. So that Mahaprana Adesha will not happen there. It happens only where the Prathama Varna, that is the Chai Varna is directly the Agama. We also saw this, I think, Prankshashtaha, etc. Where Kakara, Gnohu Kuktuk Shari, where Kakara or Takara is directly the Agama, it happens. Whereas when it is the case of Chartva, the Dvitiya Desha is not taken. Right? So it may be a error. There was a question in the test which says Chatur Shabdasya Sambuddhau Kaha Agamaha Bhavati. Did I really ask that? Chatur Shabdasya Sambuddhau? Because Sambuddhi is not accepted for this, but okay. If it was there, Sambuddhau Ityanena Amagamaha Bhavet. Chatvaraha. The form itself is not.
Might be it means the Chaturaha, that type.
Chaturaha is Dvitiya Vibhakti.
When samasa is done, Priya Chaturaha. There,
Priya Chaturaha. He Priya Chatvar, correct. Yeah. Samase bhavati. Am sambuddhau ityanena sambuddhau amagamaha. Chaturanaduho ramudattaha am sambuddhau iti सूत्रद्वयम्. अतः सम्बुद्धिः यदा अस्ति, यदि अस्ति, यथा तया उक्तं, समासे यदि भवति तर्हि तत्र अमागमः इति उत्तरम्. Okay. Next. Is it Sharngin or Sharngun? Sharngin. It's an innanta shabda. Sharngam asya asti iti Sharngin. Right. So it is a tadhitanta shabda. Ata ini thanau. In is a pratyaya. That is why it is considered under in han posharyam nam shau ityanena supratyaye eva upadhadirgha bhavati anyatra na bhavati. Okay. Okay. If it is referring to here, then it's a spelling typo. That's innant. Diva out iti sutram katham nitya sutram. You mean in dyauhu, right? So diva s. So supratyaye pare diva shabdasya au karadeshaha bhavati. So you have halgyabhyo dirgha sutyasya praktam hal and diva out. Now halgyabhyo dirghat applies when the nitya anitya is krita akrita prasangi shastram nityam. So if you have A and B, if A operates only in the absence of B, it is it cannot operate after B, whereas B can operate both before and after A, right? Then B is nitya compared to A, right? So this nityatva, this when we are talking about para nitya antaranga, it's relative, right? So between A and B, if one of the sutras, which is A, can operate only before B, it cannot operate after B, whereas B can operate both before and after A, then B is called nitya. Now you have halgyadi lopa, which can happen only if autva has not happened, because if once we do aukara, the nimitta is not there. Halanta is not there. Therefore, halgyadi lopa cannot happen if we apply diva out. Whereas for diva out, supratyaye pare, it can apply before halgyadi lopa. It can also apply after halgyadi lopa because it is pratyaya lope pratyaya lakshana. And it is also angakarya, so naturally also it should take precedence, but yes. Yeah. So there's a request to upload answers for the end of the chapter, the descriptive exercise. I deliberately stopped it after a while because it was too much of spoon feeding. I know, as in by this time we did it for say first part. Even in part 2 for the Ajanta Shabdas, I think till at least 4th or 5th chapter we did apply over the answers. But later I saw that when I was correcting the papers, I realized that that has an effect on the answers. At least some of them try to make it exactly that. which is not good. Those descriptive answers are what you are supposed to come up on your own, right? That is how you develop your skill of explaining Vyakarana. Understanding it and explaining it is different, right? So that is why I'm not giving the answers. If you have any doubts, you can always ask. But those are all, I mean, there is no whether this is right or that is right. Those are not the kind of questions there. Well, generally, it is just a way of expression, which it is good. I'm sure all of you by now are good enough at that. Any other questions specifically?
नमस्ते भगिनी.
Yeah.
रूपसुधा वदामि.
वदतु.
चतुर्शब्दः संख्यावाचकः वा सामान्यशब्दः वा? चतुरः बहुवचने चतुरः बालान् इत्यत्र भवति वा? किल चतुरः इति शब्दः किमर्थं प्रयुज्यते?
चतुर इति अकारान्तः शब्दः विशेषणवाचकः अस्ति. चतुरः बालकः इत्युक्ते सः बुद्धिमान् इत्यर्थे चतुर इति अकारान्तः शब्दः अस्ति. चतुर् इति रेफान्तः संख्यावाचकः शब्दः. तत्र चतुरः बालान् इत्युक्ते ये चत्वारः बालाः सन्ति तान् पश्य इति यदि कथनीयं तर्हि चतुरः बालान् पश्य इति उच्यते. तत्र तस्य संख्यावाचकत्वं बहुवचनान्तत्वम्. चतुरः बालकः इति विशेषणम् इत्युक्ते तत्र गुणवाचकं यदा भवति तदा तु अकारान्तशब्दः एकवचनान्तं भवति.
दृष्ट्या एव जानामि.
प्रसङ्गवशादेव ज्ञातव्यम्. आमाम्. इट्स् one of the favorites of poets actually for श्लेषा or अलङ्कार. तत्र प्रसङ्गादेव ज्ञातव्यम्, अन्यथा न ज्ञायते.
धन्यवादः.
So there is a request for full handouts of 8th and 9th chapter. We'll upload it. I have it on my list. Somehow wasn't able to get to it. I will upload. Okay, so if there are no questions, we'll quickly go through the shabdas, a summary of the shabdas, and then practice a few prakriyas if possible. Right? So in hakarantas, yes, Maithili Bhagini, you have a question? Okay, so let's start with hakaranta shabda. So if you look here, so the maximum variety, one is in hakarantas, nakaranta, jakaranta. Dakarantas are there, but then each of them is of a different kind. So these are the three cases where there are a lot of variants. In the other cases, it's fairly simple. Right? Say Thakaranta Agnimat is the simplest. There is nothing other than Jashtva and Chartva. Then we go to Vakaranta. There is only one Shabda Sudiv, which is Div iti Shabdaha. So there are two sutras. Right? Diva out Supratyaye pare aukaraha Sudyauhu Anyatra Padante Ukaraha. So Diva ut. So Sudyubhyam Sudyubhi. अन्यः विशेषः नास्ति. रेफान्तः चतुर् शब्दः तत्र नित्यं बहुवचनान्तः शब्दः. समासे सति सर्वाणि वचनानि भवन्ति, किन्तु समासाभावे केवलं बहुवचनान्तः शब्दः. तत्र सर्वनामस्थाने अर्थात् जस् प्रत्यये परे चतुरनडुहो रामुदात्तः इत्यनेन आम् आगमः. सो चतु आर् चत्वार् चत्वारः चतुरः चतुर्भ्यां चतुर्भिः चतुर्भिः चतुर्णाम इत्यत्र षट्चतुर्भ्यश्च इत्यनेन नुमागमः. तत्र अचोरहाभ्यां द्वे इत्यनेन नकारस्य द्वित्वमपि भवति. चतुर्षु इत्यत्र षत्वं. फेर्लि सिम्पल्. मकारान्ताः अपि तत्र प्रशाम् शब्दः शम् धातोः निष्पन्नः. मोनो धातोः इत्यनेन पदान्ते मकारस्य नकारः भवति. सो प्रशान् प्रशान्भ्यां प्रशान्भिः इत्यादि. अन्यत्र प्रशामौ प्रशामः कोऽपि विशेषः नास्ति. किं शब्दस्य किमः कः इत्यनेन सर्वासु विभक्तिषु क इत्यादेशः ततः सर्वशब्दवद् रूपाणि भवन्ति। इदं शब्दः विशिष्टः, तत्र बहूनि सूत्राणि सन्ति। तत्र इदोयि पुंसि इत्यनेन सुप्रत्यये परे अय् इत्यादेशः भवति। इदं शब्दः त्यदादिगणे अस्ति इति प्रथमम्, अतः त्यदादीनामः इति सर्वासु विभक्तिषु भवति। केवलं सुप्रत्यये इदमो मः इत्यनेन मस्य मकारादेशः भवति। इदोयि पुंसि इत्यनेन इद् इत्यस्य स्थाने अय् इत्यादेशः। सो दट् इस् हौ वी गेट् अयम्। अन्यत्र सर्वनामस्थाने दश्च इत्यनेन, न केवलं सर्वनामस्थाने, प्रथमा विभक्तौ द्वितीया विभक्तौ च दकारस्य स्थाने मकारादेशः भवति। अतः इमौ, इमे, इमम्, इमौ, इमान् सर्वत्र इद इति प्रातिपदिकरूपं भवति त्यदादीनामः अतो गुणे इति कृते। ततः दकारस्य स्थाने मकारादेशः सर्वनामकार्याणि भवन्ति। अयम्, इमौ, इमे, इमम्, इमौ, इमान्। तृतीयायाः आरभ्य अजादौ विभक्तौ अनाप्यकः इत्यनेन अनादेशः हलि लोपः। So anapyakaha hali lopaha. That is the pair of sutras which you should always remember. So anena abhyam ebhihi pratyayah haladihi asti chet idaha lopaha bhavati. Adaha a ityeva shishyate. Pratyayah ajadihi asti chet id ityasya sthane an iti adeshaha bhavati. Ataha anena abhyam ebhihi asmai abhyam ebhyah ityadi rupani bhavanti. Anvadeshe एनादेशोपि भवति। द्वितीया टा ओसु इत्यपि स्मर्तव्यम्। So those are the general smaller ones. Coming to hakarantas. Hakaranteshu utsargah hodhah ityanena dhatvam. So hakarasya sthane adeshah iti yada pashyamah, hodhah ityanena dhatvam samanyatah bhavati. दादेः धातुः दकारादिः धातुः अस्ति चेत् घकारादेशः भवति। दादेर् धातोर्घः इति। वा द्रुह मुह श्नुह श्निहां चतुर्णां धातूनां विकल्पेन घकारः तदभावे ढकारः। So druh muhu snuh are a combination. You get both dhatva and ghatva. So dhatva is utsarga, ghatva is apavada. There are some which get both. That is about the antadesha. Yada dhatvam va ghatvam va bhavati tatra prathamaha varnaha bash varnaha asti chet. That is ja ba ga da dash. Tada tatra bhash bhavaha api bhavati ekacho bhasho bhash jashantasya dhoho. So dhrug, dhrud, dhrug iti bhavati. Right? That is all. The other sandhis, always please remember, as we keep on studying, the general sandhis, you should try to keep them out and remember what is specific about the shabda. That is most important. Even though for writing prakriya, we need to put together everything. The most important thing is when we look at a word, you shouldn't start with the say sasajushoruhu kharvasanayor visarjaniyaha or jhalam jashonte etc. All those are general. You should always try to remember what is specific. Right? So for example, one's hakaranta, I know that it is hodhaha or dader dhatorghaha and ekacho bashobhash. So vishvavah. The only sutra which should strike is vaha ut. Right? Everything else should be common. You get hodhaha, jashtva, etc. So the only special thing is bhasamyayam samprasaranam bhavati. Right? Similarly, if we look at turasah, the only special thing is sahesadah. Everything else should come naturally. That is how we should practice. So practice the general very well, so that when you come to specific shabdas, you don't have to repeat the general stuff. You should remember only that specific stuff. Right? So usually for any shabda, it is only one. Okay? There are some very special shabdas like anaduh, where there are multiple sutras to remember. Right? So chaturanaduho ramudattaha am sambuddhau We also have Vasusram Sudhvam Svanaduham Daha. Right? So in such cases, you will have to remember those specific things. But when you are given Anaduhu Su, right? Anadu, Ah, S, and then you have the further steps. So the Iko Enachi or Halgyabhyo Dirghatsutisya Pratam Hal. So all those should not clutter your mind when you are thinking about these shabdas. Right? That is how Vyakarana should be approached. Samanya Vishesha, Samanya Vishesha. You have to learn the Samanya, but when you are looking at a particular shabda or dhatu, when we move to Tinganta, it will be even more difficult because dhatus have much more variation, right? So unless you develop that skill of focusing and remembering on the specific stuff, leave the general stuff. So Sudiva, Diva out and Diva ut. Remember the sutra and remember when it applies. So Supratyaye autvam, anyatra padante utvam. Other than that, everything else you should be able to, once you put your pen to paper, you should be able to derive it by your general knowledge. Right? So studying Vyakarana means improving your general knowledge of Vyakarana, while also there is specifics. So it's okay if you forget the specific, you can always look it up, you can remind yourself. But the general stuff, you should not be required to look it up. For any halanta shabda, you should never wonder whether to apply halgyadi lopa or not. That is very, very, very obvious. Should be obvious. Right? So if you are not sure whether halgyadi lopa happens or not, you will never be able to progress with prakriya. So specifics, focus on the specific sutras for each shabda. Right? So similarly, when we come to nakaranta, all the general stuff of nakaranta, right? Nalopah pratipadikantasya, padante nakarasya lopah bhavati. And then sarvanamasthane cha sambuddhau, upadha dirghaha bhavati. Those are all very, very, very common stuff. Even the niyama, inhan pusha aryamanam shau. So if it is inhan pusha aryaman, supratyaye eva dirghaha, anyatra dirghaha na bhavati. Samanyataha dirghaha bhavati sarvanamasthane. Then again, the allopa. Allopo naha. Bhasamnyayam allopaha bhavati. But na sanyogad vamantat. Pakaranta makaranta sanyogaha asti chet na bhavati. Ni pratyaye allopaha vikalpena bhavati. All these are general stuff you should be very, very comfortable with. Right? So Rajan Nityatra Vastutaha Visheshaha Kopi Nasti. It is the typical Nakaranta Shabda. So Upadha Dirgha, Nalopa, and Allopa. That is the standard template. What happens in Yajvan? Allopaha na bhavati. Brahman, Allopaha na bhavati. Vritrahan. So what is special in Vritrahan? The only thing is that Hohanter Ninneshu. Everything else, the Natva, because we saw the sutra for the first time, Ekajuttara Padenaha, you will have to remember. But otherwise, what is special there is only that Kutva. Hohanter Ninneshu. Vritrahan. Allope krite. Hakarasya sthane ghakaraha bhavati. Vritraghnaha. Vritragna vritragne. Kutra bhavati yatra allopaha. Allopaha kutra bhavati bhasamnyayam bhavati. Right? So Vritragnaha, that is actual thing to be remembered for Vritrahan. Shangin, there is nothing. You just have to identify it is innanta. Sau eva dirghaha, anyatra dirghaha nasti. Pushan, tatrapi tathaiva. Pusha, pushanau pushanaha. Everything else is like Rajan. Maghavan. So Maghavan shabde, Maghava bahulam ityanena, vikalpena, tr adeshaha bhavati. So it basically becomes two different shabdas. One is Maghavat and the other is Maghavan. The general Maghavan shabda is like Rajan. What is special? Shvayuva maghona matadhite ityanena bhasamnyayam samprasaranam bhavati. So maghonaha maghona. Otherwise it is like Rajan. When you do Takaradesha, then it becomes Ugidacham sarvanamasthane अधातोः इत्यनेन नुमागमः भवति सर्वनामस्थाने. So मघवान्, मघवन्तौ, मघवन्तः, मघवन्तं, मघवन्तौ. अन्यत्र सर्वत्र जष्ट्वं, चर्त्वम् इत्यादि भवति. श्वन् again only samprasarana, bhasamnyayam samprasaranam. Yuvan bhasamnyayam samprasaranam. Arvan, so arvanastr asau anayah. Supratyaya bhinne sthale tr adeshah bhavati, nityam bhavati. Not like Maghavan, this is compulsory and not in su. So when you do tr bhava, ugidacham sarvanamasthane dhatoho ityanena numagamaha bhavati. Pathin. So like anaduh, pathin is a shabda which has multiple sutras, right? So patimathir bhukshamat itot sarvanamasthane thontaha bhasyater lopaha. Atayeva etadrisheshu, for special shabdas, if you have the Ashtadhyayi memorized, it is very easy. Because Panini would have put them together, right? 4 sutras in an order. Patimathir bhuksham at sarvanamasthane pare. Supratyaya pare itot sarvanamasthane thontha takarasya sthane nth. Both these are in sarvanamasthana. Bhasya tehe lopaha. So if you remember these 4 sutras, pathin is done. Of course, I'm not saying it's done the first time, but once you have studied, when you are revising, that should be your aim. That with this much of clue, you should be able to get at the prakriya. Similarly, rubhukshin ityatra thonthaha iti na bhavati, anyani karyani bhavanti. Panchan is a general nakaranta sankhya-vachaka shabda. There is nothing special except shashchaturbhyascha ityanena amaha nodagamaha bhavati. So ashtan ityatra ashtana a vibhaktau atvam vikalpena bhavati. Ataha sarveshu sarvasu vibhaktishu rupadvayam bhavati shashthim vihaya. So ashtabhyaha ashtabhyaha ashtabhihi ashtabhihi ashtau ashta. Yada jasyasoho atvam bhavati tada ashtabhya aush ityanena autvam atvam ubhayam bhavati tada ashtau iti bhavati. Anyatha nalopaha ashta. Shashthi vibhaktau ashtanam iti ekameva rupam, kintu prakriya dvedha bhavati. One is by nalopa and dirgha, you get the ashtanam. In the other case, by atva and nudagama, you get the ashtanam. Right? So in jakarantas, there are the utsarga again is chohkuhu. Chavargasya kavargadeshaha bhavati iti utsargaha. The apavada is vrashchabhrasja srijamrija yajaraja bhraja chasham shaha. So if it belongs to one of those, Raj, Srij, etc., you get Shatva. Shakara becomes Dakara. So Radbhyam, Radbhihi, ityadi. For Parivraj, there is a special sutra. There is a Dirgha and Shatvam. Paravupapade. Kvip Dirghascha ityanena. There is a Shatvam which comes specifically for Parivraj. For Vishwaraj, so Raj is there, so there is Shatva, etc. In addition, Vishwasya Vasuratoho ityanena padante purvapadasya dirghaha bhavati. So Vishwarat, Vishwarajau, Vishwarajaha. Then there is one more set of shabdas in jakarantas which are kvin pratyayanta shabdas. So tatra kvin pratyayasya kuhu ityanena kutvam bhavati iti visheshaha. Yujadhatoho vishaye, kvin is only for kevala yujadhatu, and there is a sutra yuje rasamase which gives a numagama also only when there is no samasa. So when there is samasa, neither kvin nor numagama. So suyuk, suyujau, suyujaha is a normal jakaranta shabda which gets chohkuhu. Whereas yuj gets yung, yunjau, yunjaha, because there is नुमागम and क्विन् प्रत्यय. खञ्ज् इत्यत्र संयोगान्तस्य लोपः इत्यनेन पदान्ते जकारस्य लोपः भवति. खन्भ्यां खन्भिः. भृस्ज इत्यत्र पदान्ते व्रश्चभ्रस्ज इत्यनेन षत्वं भवति. There is also skos संयोगाद्योर अन्ते च. Right. So there is a sakara lopa, jakara becomes shakara. So bhrit iti bhavati. Yada padantatvam nasti tada shchutvam bhavati. So sakara becomes shakara, which again gets jashtva to become jakar. So shchunashchuhu jhalam jhashi ityanena bhrijau bhrijjaha iti bhavati. Dakaranteshu we have tyadadina maha. Right. So tad tyad etad ityatra sarvatrapi adantatvam bhavati tataha sarvashabdavad rupani bhavanti. Tad shabde tados sassavanantyayoho ityanena supratyaye pare takarasya sakaraha. So you get saha, taute, etc. Etad ityatra anvadeshe ena adeshaha bhavati. Yushmad asmad we have studied in detail. So you cannot summarize Yushmad asmad. We have studied very recently. Supad ityatra padahpat ityanena bhasamnyayam padadeshaha bhavati. Supada, supade ityani. Suhrad is the general shabda which again doesn't have any special karya. Right? So Sudiv and Sudyo have the same meaning but different sutras is a question. Yes, Div and Dyo Shabda. The Amarakosha in the beginning itself, it says Dyo Divau Dve Striyam Abhram. So Dyo Shabda and Div Shabda both are there to mean Swarga and to mean sky. Okay. So Tatra Prathama Vibhaktau Dyauhu Ityeva Rupam Bhavati through different sutras. So in Sudiva it gets Diva out. Tatra tu Oto Nit Goto Nit Ityanena Nidvad Bhavaha Vridhihi Bhavati. Arthaha api samana eva. Can you explain why Rat Sasya is a Niyama Sutra? Siddhe sati arabhyamano vidhihi niyamaya bhavati iti lakshanam niyamasya. So a niyama sutra is one which restricts the operation of another sutra which is already applicable. So in all cases of Rat Sasya means there is a sanyoga of Repa and Sakara. So wherever there is a sanyoga at the end, sanyogantasya lopaha ityanena lopaha prapnoti. So lopa is already there, which is applicable by sanyogantasya lopaha. Whereas ratsasya is restricting the application of sanyoganta lopa and saying refat parasya sasyaiva lopaha bhavati. So if there are other varnas, there is no lopa. So that is why it is a niyama sutra. Can thonthaha be applied to agnimath? No. It is only pathi mathi rubhuksham. So it applies only for two shabdas, pathin and mathin. Rubhukshin doesn't have thakara. It is not a general sutra. Order is very important. Pathi mathi rubhuksham iti anuvartate. So it applies only for pathin and mathin. Any other questions?
Bhagini. अत्र एकत्र विश्वस्य वसुराटुः इत्यत्र राड् इति पदान्तो उपलक्षणार्थम् इति उक्तमस्ति. तत्र स्पष्टं नास्ति. चर्त्वम् अविवक्षितं राड् इति पदान्तोपलक्षणार्थम् इति. स्पष्टीकरोतु।
So, वसुराटोः इत्यत्र टकारः अस्ति। टकारः कथं भवति? राज शब्दस्य इति चेत् रश्चभ्रस्ज इत्यनेन षत्वं झलां जशोन्ते इति जष्ट्वं ततः चर्त्वं भवति चेदेव राट् इति भवति। तर्हि यत्र यत्र चर्त्वं भवति तत्रैव दीर्घः वा इति प्रश्नः। नास्ति इति उत्तरं। चर्त्वम् अविवक्षितं। तत्र चर्त्वं भवेत् इत्यत्र आग्रहः नास्ति, पदान्तत्वं भवेत् इत्येव आग्रहः। अतः सर्वत्र विश्वराड्भ्याम् इत्यत्रापि दीर्घः भवति। नो चेत् केवलं विश्वाराट् विश्वाराट्सु द्वयोः प्रत्यययोः एव दीर्घस्य प्राप्तिः। विश्वाराड्भ्याम् इत्यत्र टकारः नास्ति, किन्तु चर्त्वस्य अविवक्षितत्वात् तत्रापि भवति।
अवगतं भगिनी। तत्र केवलम् उपलक्षणार्थम् इति उक्तत्वात् किमपि अस्ति वा इति सन्देहः। धन्यवादः
भगिनी। संख्यासंज्ञकशब्दः इति किमस्ति? No, there is a question. कस्मात् परस्य आमः नुडागमः न भवति? संख्यासंज्ञकात् परस्य आमः नुडागमः न भवति. So how does it, what does it mean here actually?
Where was this in a test?
It was in the review, chapter 7 review.
See, where is Nudagama given? Nudagama is given based on Shat Samya. Shat Samyakat parasya amaha Nudagamaha bhavati. It does not depend on Sankhya Samya.
Oh, Rasvantat.
Rasvantat, because Rasvanta you get am by Rasvanadhyaponut. If it has Shat Samya, you get by Shat Chaturbhyascha. Right?
And Abanta,
Abanta again by Rasvanadhyaponut, you get the Nudagam. But if there is a Sankhya Samya, which doesn't have anything else, there is no sutra which gives a Nudagama based on the Sankhya Samya.
Okay. For example, what is an example of the Sankhya Sangya? Like
actually, if you look at it, the general Sankhya Vachaka Shabdas, they will get by some other sutra. Say Eka is a Sankhya Vachaka Shabda. It gets because again Eka ityatra prasaktihi na bhavati. So if there are other Sankhya Vachaka Shabdas, there is Bahu, etc. So Bahu Shabda has Sankhya Samya. There are other Shabdas, they may get if they are Rasva or if they have Shat Samya. The intention of the question is only that a Sankhya Vachaka Shabda does not get Nudagama because of the Sankhya Samya. Sankhya Samya Shabdasya asti chet tatra Nudagamaha bhavati iti nasti.
Astu Bhagini. And I have one more question. In Rajan Shabda, Suprati Pare, first we do Sarvanamasthani cha Sambuddhau and get the Upada Dirgha. Then we do Halnyavyo Dirghat. Can we do Halnyavyo Dirghat and do the Sulopa and then?
You can do, but generally Angakarya will always take precedence. Halnyavyo Dirghat is in 6-1. It is not an Angakarya. So generally wherever there is an Angakarya, we do the Angakarya and then do Sulopa. It will not affect very technically, even if you delete the Supratyaya, there is Pratyaya Lakshana. But prefer to do it first.
So Angakarya always happens first. Okay. Astu Bhagini. Dhanyavada.
That was because I think sometimes in the Prakriya, second step, third step you ask. Sometimes we get confused. I mean, sometimes it doesn't matter which we put. So
yes.
There's a confusion.
Yeah, I think in certain cases this Sulopa happens first and then the subsequent.
It depends on which is the Karya. Yeah. So if there is a Karya in the Tripadi or wherever it, for general Angakarya, depending on the Supratyaya, will happen first before doing Halnyadilopa. So quin pratyayasya kuhu eva quin pratyayasya prayojanam kim? Yes, the prayojana of quin is quin pratyayasya kuhu. Okay, there is no other prayojana as such which I can think of. मोनोधातोः इति गम रम इत्यत्रापि भवति वा इति प्रश्नः न भवति. तेषु तत्र मकारस्य लोपः भवति. Once depending on the pratyaya, if it is a kith pratyaya, the makara will be deleted in those dhatus. Okay, so there is no possibility of having makara in padanta in gam or ram. So yeshu dhatushu tatra makara shravanasya prasaktihi asti tatra monodhatoho iti bhavitum arhati. So halgyabhyo iti lopaha kutra prathamam bhavati kutra na. See, any karya which we have to do depending on the padantatva, right? Say hodhaha, all those are in the tripadi and they depend on padanta. For to get that padantatva, you need to delete the supratyaya and then only it becomes padanta by suptingantam padam. So in such cases where we are applying, for example, if I do lihus, I have to delete the sup first, then only you have padantatva, and anyway it is in the tripadi, so only later you can apply hodhaha. Right? So all those karyas which are in the tripadi and which are depending on padasamya, you can apply only after applying halgyadi lopa. Whereas if there is a karya which happens depending on the su, which is not the padanta karya, which is depending on the supratyaya, which is an anga karya, then the anga karya will happen first, then sulopa, and then the other karyas. Right. So it depends on what karya we are looking at, either before or after halgyadi lopa. Okay, so I think we'll stop here. You had a lot of practice. So what I'll do is, there is some pending stuff to be uploaded in chapter 9, the tests for chapter 9. There was one revision exercise for, for the exam. I'll also upload a few more just for practice, where we won't need any discussion, hopefully. It is just for practice. And then we will have the exam as announced. So in between, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out, Telegram, WhatsApp, email. I will answer those on a priority in the next few weeks. There may have been some older mails which are pending. I'm slowly clearing them, but now if you have any questions, please feel free to send them in. Okay, so wish you all the best for the exam. I will send communication again just before the exam and it will be uploaded. येनाक्षर समाम्नायम् अधिगम्य महेश्वरात् कृत्स्नं व्याकरणं प्रोक्तं तस्मै पाणिनये नमः. वाक्यकारं वररुचिं भाष्यकारं पतञ्जलिं पाणिनिं सूत्रकारं च प्रणतोऽस्मि मुनित्रयं. नत्वा सरस्वतीं देवीं शुद्धां गुण्यां करोम्यहं. पाणिनीयप्रवेशाय लघुसिद्धान्तकौमुदीम्.